I really am an armchair adventurer, so to go on an actual expedition is unbelievably exciting. To me, it's fantastic because I'm very, very passionate about the Arctic. I believe it's one of the most dazzling places on the earth, and whenever I go to the Arctic, I feel very privileged to have that experience, to be part of an expedition. I really believe by most standards that the Arctic is really untouched by mankind. And with all our technology like email, voicemail, iPods, 500 channels of TV, you always feel that you're electronically glued into the rest of the planet. But in the Arctic, you really feel like you're isolated. You're incommunicado. And I find that so refreshing because you are by yourself and the silence, it screams at you. And the light, I could go on and on about the light. The light can be very brilliant and very dazzling, or it can be very subdued and very soft. You can get these brilliant yellows and cadmium reds that just are popping out of the sky against this dark midnight blue. And then at the same time, you can get these very soft purples and very soft pinks that just make everything glow. And when it gets caught in the ice, it's trapped by the ice and reflected by the light, both at the same time, then you have this amazing crystallization of light happening. It's brilliant, like a sense of many, many diamonds being thrown together. It's really hard to capture the essence, the size, and the majesty of an iceberg, especially when you're working within the limitations of a small digital frame, because scale in the Arctic is very hard to prove. That's why sometimes I'd like to, when I'm actually painting or sketching the ship, I'll make the ship look really, really large and the ice very tiny. In other words, man has conquered the Arctic. We are in control. We put our footprint on the Arctic. Or sometimes I do the corollary to that. For example, people being in a zodiac or in a kayak, and then the icebergs looming above you to get that sense of scale. The icebergs can be as big as 6-storied buildings. And they stretch limitless. Like in Scoresby Sound, they seem to stretch forever right to the horizon, non-stop, like a big giant was playing with these incredible ice blocks and had just thrown them helter-skelter right to the horizon. They are incredibly imposing, and they're so beautiful, but at the same time, they're very dangerous. They can roll, they can break off, they can calve. I mean, they can put fear in your belly. You just have to be very close to one when part of one calves off and you're in a zodiac and there's a lot of tipping and there's a lot of screaming, and it's very exciting, but it's also very dangerous. Sometimes when I look at the icebergs, I'm just transported to a different place. For me, it's almost like a metaphysical experience. I sometimes wonder if I've died and gone to heaven because it's so surreal. The landscape of the ice is not like any other landscape on the planet. It's very abstract, and the lighting sometimes can almost make you feel like you're having this transcendental experience. We always are very anxious to see a polar bear on any expedition because it's one of the highlights. The polar bear really depends on the ring seal for most of its food, and we had the most amazing experience when we saw a polar bear far off in the distance, and we were coming up over this ice floe and we could see the bear was eating something. And then to the horror of everyone on the ship, we saw that this majestic, noble animal had been in a fearless fight, I mean a fight to the death, and it was actually cannibalizing a juvenile polar bear. And it's something that I visualized and experienced and will never leave me. For me, part of going to the Arctic as well is to document all that I see, all that I experience. For example, maybe someone really doesn't want to see a sketch or a painting of a polar bear cannibalizing another polar bear. But I really want that cinema verite. And so what I do when I go to the Arctic is I document everything I see. And then I come back to my studio and I'll sketch Very small sketches, but with all the colors and the nuances of what I saw. And then I'll take those sketches and then I'll do them to a larger painting, like for example the painting behind me. And I find that having the smaller sketch is very intimate, very immediate, very spontaneous, and I hope to capture that when I transfer it onto a bigger canvas. I have to say it's much more than just documenting the Arctic though. For me it's a very, not only technical, but it's a spiritual, it's a very emotional, it's a very physical journey that I'm going on when I go to the Arctic. I have actually become quite simply enthralled with the Arctic. I have fallen underneath its spell. I am totally passionate and have become in love with the Arctic. It's hard to become in love with the landscape, but it suits my mind and my mentality very, very well. I think my whole physical being feels different in the Arctic. I feel energized, I feel alive, I feel like I'm living in the moment. I feel very passionate about everything I'm doing and everything I'm witnessing. And I think long term, my goal, if I can do it, would be to totally circumnavigate the whole polar region. That's a lot of trips, but if I'm physically able, perhaps I can do it.